Selamat pagi Bapak dan Ibu semua para peserta konferensi ICERI yang ke-8 di Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta. Selamat datang di acara konferensi hari ini, dan acara akan segera dimulai dalam waktu beberapa menit lagi. Kami pastikan bahwa Bapak Ibu berada dalam jangkauan koneksi internet yang baik dan juga dalam posisi yang nyaman juga, tidak ada keramaian, sehingga Bapak dan Ibu semua dapat mengikuti kegiatan konferensi dengan sebaik-baiknya. Acara konferensi hari ini akan dimulai dengan upacara pembukaan, dan nanti dilanjutkan dengan keynote speech, kemudian berlanjut dengan sesi pleno dan sesi paralel untuk hari ini. Kita akan memastikan 1 menit lagi untuk kesiapan segalanya sebelum kita mulai acara pembukaan. Dan kami ingatkan Bapak Ibu untuk memberi nama pada screen dengan format yang sudah kami kirimkan melalui email, yaitu nomor ruangan breakout _nama, untuk memudahkan nanti kami dalam mengidentifikasi Bapak Ibu semuanya. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we would like to apologize for the inconvenience of keeping us waiting due to the technical problem. Well, the conference is about to commence in a few moments, but before we start, let me announce to you some important information. First of all, to help us recognize you easily, would you please put your name on the screen as required in the document sent by the committee to your email. Also, please make sure you activate your video and also your microphone when necessary. In addition, to ensure that the conference will run well, if not necessary, for example, if you are invited to ask questions or to respond to certain questions by the speaker or moderator, would you please make sure that your microphone is off. Further information about you can get involved in the presentation sessions, including asking questions, will be shared by the moderator. Honorable Interim Rector of Yogyakarta State University, Vice Rector for General and Financial Affairs, Vice Rector for Planning and Cooperation Affairs, and Vice Rector for Student Affairs and Alumni, the keynote speaker and invited speakers, heads of bureaus, Director of Graduate School, deans of all faculties, heads of institutes, all distinguished guests, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon you all, and good morning. Our deepest gratitudes and praises are for God the Almighty and the Most Merciful for the blessings He has given to us. Let me also extend a warmest welcome to the opening ceremony of the 8th International Conference on Educational Research and Innovation, organized by the Institute of Research and Community Service of Yogyakarta State University today, November the 4th, 2020. The umbrella theme of this year's conference is Freedom to Learn. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, this annual conference discusses freedom to learn, which is a new concept in the Indonesian educational system proposed by the Minister of Education and Culture, Nadiem Makarim. In addition, different from the previous conferences, the 8th International Conference on Educational Research and Innovation is conducted virtually as the condition of the COVID-19 pandemic does not allow us yet for this conference to be held as usual. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now a quick word about this morning's conference opening ceremony. We shall begin with the national anthem Indonesia Raya and a dance performance. The next items are the report by the conference chair and welcoming remarks from the organizing committee. And finally, Interim Rector of Yogyakarta State University will be delivering his opening speech afterwards. Distinguished guests, all participants, ladies and gentlemen, to start with, please be silent and bow our heads for a moment to say a prayer. Let's say our prayer, shall we? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem Indonesia Raya. Those who are in this room, please raise. be seated. Distinguished guests, all participants, ladies and gentlemen, next we would like to proudly present to you all a Yogyakartanese dance by the students of the Dance Education Department of the Faculty of Language and Arts of Yogyakarta State University. The dance is actually a men's single dance that originated from Yogyakarta, where the conference is held. Kelana mask dance always uses the mask and usually made of wood and colored red. The dance depicts a king named Prabu Klana Sewandana from Pudak Payung Kingdom, who falls in love with the goddess of Sekartaji. Through graceful and enchanting but dynamic movements accompanied with Javanese traditional music, the dance named Kelana Mask is performed this morning to express our warm welcome to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kelana Mask Dance. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the report by the conference chair. Please welcome Ibu Pangesti Widarti, PhD.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace and God's blessing be upon you all. First of all, allow me to extend my warmest greetings and welcome to the 8th International Conference on Education, Research and Innovation, organized by Yogyakarta State University. The conference is virtually held for today's November 4th and 5th, 2020, due to the condition of the pandemic COVID-19, which doesn't allow us to meet face-to-face. This year, the freedom to learn is raised as the conference theme. The theme is raised to bring enlightenment, triggers of fresh ideas that can be applied, and other alternatives in order to make the implementation of freedom to learn, Freedom Campus run smoothly. The 8th ICERI is aimed at spreading the ideas, experience, and findings of the researches conducted by lecturers, teachers, and researchers to improve the quality of research in determining and developing knowledge. For your information, we proudly present one keynote speech, 2 plenary presentation sessions, and 2 parallel presentation sessions. Stephanie L. Lindquist, GD, PhD, from Arizona State University, the U.S. speaks as the keynote speakers. A special gratitude is addressed to Dr. Bradley Horn from Relo U.S. Embassy as the middleman who has facilitated the committee to invite the keynote speaker. 5 outstanding speakers in their fields have been invited. They are Wikan Zakarinto, SDPMC, PhD, Directorate General of Vocational Education, Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia. Associate Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Maltan from the University of Otago, New Zealand. And Professor Swarsing Madya, MA PhD from Yogyakarta State University. Dr. Nawalitza Abdul Wahab from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Malaysia. And Associate Professor Dr. Minako Sakai from the University of New South Wales, Australia. We have done our best to prepare this conference. So my highest appreciation and heartfelt thanks go to all committee members. As to err is human, shortcomings may occur here and there. On behalf of the committee, I would therefore like you all to accept our apologies. To conclude, let me wish you a productive discussion and fruitful conference. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace and God's blessing be upon you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up next is the welcoming remark by the organizing committee, represented by the Director of Institute of Research and Community Service of Yogyakarta State University, Professor Dr. Seswantoyo Mkes, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace and good blessing be upon you all. Honorable Rector of Yogyakarta State University, whom I respect, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, General Affairs and Finance, Student and Alumni Affairs, Planning and Cooperation, the Dean, Director, and Head of Institution, Head of Research Institute and Community Service, and Secretary from 11 universities in Indonesia as co-host. I respect the keynote speakers, invited the speakers, all participants, and the committee. Welcome to Yogyakarta, which is a miniature of Indonesia in the focusing on education and culture. So Yogyakarta is a city of creativity that never ends. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Institute of Research and Community Service of Yogyakarta State University, I am pleased to welcome you to the International Conference on Educational Research and Innovation. It is with great pride, pleasure, and honor that we have been successful in organizing the 8th International Conference on Educational Research and Innovation in a challenging situation of the COVID-19 pandemic we are currently facing. No matter how difficult the situation is, it is often said that in the middle of every difficulty is an opportunity, and it is true. With the support of the university, speakers, and many other parties, the organizing committee has collectively made this event a reality. The ICERI 2020 theme is different from the previous ICERIs, which generally emphasizes the research result. This year, it provides an opportunity for participants to express opinions. In addition to the result of the research, because ICERI 2020 discusses freedom to learn, freedom campus, which is a new concept presented by Minister of Education and Culture of Republic of Indonesia, Nadiem Makarim. Therefore, this conference can expected to facilitate the contribution of ideas and research so that participants get enlightenment, trigger of fresh idea that can be applied, and other alternatives in order to make the implementation of freedom to learn, freedom campus run smoothly. I believe we will have a great opportunity to network, discuss, and understanding how the freedom to learn, freedom campus is implemented through the discussion and ideas presented in ICERI 2020. I wish to thank our keynote speaker, Stephanie R. Lindquist, GD PhD, and invited speakers, Wikan Zakarinto, ST, MSc PhD, Associate Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Malan, Professor Swarsih Madya, MA PhD, Dr. Nurwaliza Abdul Wahab, and Associate Professor Dr. Minaku Sakai for accepting our invitation to share their words of expertise. Our local researchers have also contributed oral presentation that will provide engaging and informative session highlighting the issue of freedom to learn being carried out in the today. We are greatly appreciative for their commitment to our conference. Finally, a warm welcome to all our speakers and participants. Thank you for your participation in what promises to be a great forum to share knowledge and grow valuable collaboration. From Record from Research Institute from Community Service to Jakarta State University. Thank you, and success to all. Smart work and happiness.
Ladies and gentlemen, now may we invite at Interim Rector of Yogyakarta State University for the opening speech, at the end of which we would also like to kindly request the ad interim rector to officially declare the 8th International Conference on Educational Research and on Innovation open straight afterwards. Professor Dr. Margana M. Hum, M.A., the floor is yours.
The Honorable Keynote Speaker, Stephanie Lindquist, PhD, from University of Arizona, USA. Distinguished panel speakers, dear Vice Rector of Yogyakarta State University, all deans, Director of Graduate School of Yogyakarta State University, Head of Institute of Education Development and Quality Assurance, Head of Institute of Research and Community Services, Head of Entrepreneurship Management and Development Body, the Chairpersons of the Conference Committee, distinguished speakers and parallel presenters, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. May peace and God's blessings be upon all of us. First of all, let us thank Allah, the Almighty, for blessing and guiding us into the right path, and for granting all means and opportunities to gather here to attend this very fruitful and tremendous occasions of the 8th International Conference on Educational Research Innovation, as abbreviated ICERI, in 2020 through virtual mode due to the COVID-19 pandemic, hosted by Institute of Research and Community Services, Yogyakarta State University. It is greatly honored and pleased for me to warmly welcome all of you in this virtual conference. Distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is evident that the COVID-19 pandemic has spread with alarming speed, infecting millions of people around the world, increasing the death rate of people and bringing economic activity to a near standstill as countries impose tight restrictions on movements to minimize the spread of the virus. With regard to this, the policy of Yogyakarta State University takes a platform of virtual mode to hold the international conference as what we utilize today, on the grounds that the health and safety among us should become the main priority. As we are all aware, freedom of learning has been an important issue nowadays as a result of, among other, societal development and the surging needs for an outline learning. An essential attribute of freedom of learning is the availability of choices among learners. Choices could be in the forms of different modes of learning, basis of learning, and even amount of assistance provided for the lecturers, for learners, and the like. Freedom in this case, however, should be able to empower not only students, but also lecturers, as mentioned before. In response to the importance of freedom of learning and the government policy on Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka, UNY, as one of the biggest universities in Indonesia, ranks 12 of more than 4,500 universities, has also involved in accordance to need of freedom of learning and MBKM policy and program. UNY has revised the curriculum to respond to and support the freedom of learning. An example of program that has run in UNY is the implementations of community-based 20-credit package of education, practicum, community services program, and thesis writing conducted in the society or industries. UNY has also conducted discussions and seminars to sharpen the formulation of ideas and practices as efforts to support the implementations of MBKM. That is why the 8th International Conference on Education Research and Innovation, as abbreviated ICERI, is among the efforts. We hope that it can be a good forum for teachers, lecturers, researchers, and practitioners to share ideas, research findings, and best practices in the implementations of freedom of learning. In relation to the above issues, Institute of Research and Community Services of Yogyakarta State University is keen on responding to intensely enhance students to be engaged in the Society 5.0 in conjunction with the advances of technologies by making use of big data, Internet of Things or IoT, artificial intelligence, and others to gain the betterment of the human lives. That is why the theme of this conference today deals with freedom to learn. It is aimed at providing a forum for scholars, lecturers, researchers, teachers, stakeholders, practitioners, and students to intensively share ideas and experience under the topic mentioned, and to make a collaboration across institutions and countries. Distinguished invited speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, to gain the objectives, the committee has succeeded in inviting some prominent experts as the keynote speaker and panel speakers from different countries, namely Stephanie Lindquist, PhD from University of Arizona, USA, Wikan Zakarinto, PhD, Director of Vocational Education, Ministry of Education and Culture of Indonesian Republic, Associate Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Malan from University of Otago, New Zealand, Professor Suwase Madya, PhD from University of Yogyakarta, Dr. Nurwaliza Abdul Wahab from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Malaysia, and Associate Professor Minako Sakai, PhD from University of New South Wales, Australia. In this opportunity, I would like to warmly express many thanks to them all. Added to this, it is unwise not to appreciate all delegates and participants who have managed to take part in this today's conference through virtual mode. I do hope that this conference brings some benefits to all the participants and contribute to the upbringing of the scientific life. Distinguished invited speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is really aware that this conference could not have been made possible without any help from many parties, including staff members, the delegates from many institutions, Head of Institute of Research and Community Services, Professor Dr. Siswantoyo, the head of the committee and the committee members and others. Therefore, I should appreciate their work and dedication and express many thanks to them all. I do apologize for any shortcomings which you may find during this conference. Finally, I wish you gain a fruitful and pleasant forum and enjoy yourself during this virtual conference. With the great word of Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, it is a pleasure for me to declare the official opening of this 8th International Conference on Educational Research and Innovation through virtual mode. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All participants, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the opening ceremony of the 8th International Conference on Educational Research and Innovation. Thank you for your participation. On behalf of the committee, I would also like to apologize for any shortcomings and inconveniences. We are now proceeding to the next item of today's agenda, keynote speech. The keynote speech is delivered by Stephanie A. Lindquist, G.Day, PhD, from Arizona State University, the US of America. And she is very special for us today with her so many achievements. First of all, let me share with you her academic employment. She has been a senior vice president for global academic initiatives in the Arizona State University since 2019. Previously, she was the Dean and Arch Professor of Public and International Affairs of University of Georgia. A few years before, she had several positions, important positions in the University of Texas, University of Southern California, Vanderbilt University, and also University of Georgia. She got her PhD in 1996 from University of South California. The other degrees were obtained from University of Michigan, Temple University of Law, and Orsino's College. When it's about her publication, she has a large number of books, articles, book chapters, book reviews, reports, legal notes, and also essays, and mostly are about law and its relevant subfields. She also has got various grants and awards too many to mention, for her research and teaching. She is also very active in giving professional conference presentations. In addition, she has been invited in numerous lectures and conferences, as well as consulting. Ibu Stephanie also contributes a lot in various professional and university services. To save our time, please welcome Ibu Stephanie A. Linguist, PhD, from Arizona State University, the United States of America. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And thank you for the opportunity to address this esteemed conference, ICERI 2020. It's a great pleasure for me to be here virtually. I'm very sorry I can't be with you in person, but obviously this is second best, and it's still wonderful to see you, to see the opening ceremony, and to listen to the initial speeches that have been given. Thank you very much again. I bring you greetings from President Michael Crow, who is the president of Arizona State University and has been our president for 18 years, 6 of which we have been named the #1 most innovative university in the United States. So it's a great privilege for me to be here to talk to you about the freedom to learn and the freedom to innovate, to be creative, and also to engage in quality research to advance higher education and the learning experience for all learners. I'd like to thank Rector Professor Wabana, Dr. Zakarinto from the Ministry of Education and Culture, the conference organizers for choosing such an excellent theme, freedom to learn. And I'd like to thank the U.S. Embassy, Dr. Bradley Horn, and Diane Safatiri for enabling me to give this speech today. So thank you to you all. Good morning. As I mentioned, ASU is #1 in innovation in higher education in the United States. So I thought I would present to you today a slide presentation to help you understand and to think about how we have engaged in innovation in education and how that might spark ideas for other innovations across the world and around the world. So I'm going to share my screen with you now so that you can share in the presentation that we've created for this conference. I'm hoping that all of you can see the presentation. And I certainly hope that you can see the presentation. And I'll go through the slides. I don't see a comment. I'm hoping that the presentation is accessible to you. I'm sorry, there's the comments. Let me make sure that all of you can see it. I see no concerns. So I will proceed with the presentation. First, I'd like to say that Arizona State University is a university that follows a very clear charter. Many individuals at ASU, at Arizona State, can quote this charter by heart because it reflects our core principles. And I think that's important as we think about the freedom to learn, because these principles reflect the idea that the university has a very core responsibility, a very essential responsibility to advance learning, to advance knowledge, and to serve communities to ensure, and I'm concerned that I've lost the presentation. Is there any way that the organizers could let me know if the presentation is visible through the Q&A or comment? Hello? Can you see the presentation? I see Mr. Mulbar has raised it. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So our charter, let me re-begin. I'm so sorry about the technology, which is one of our strengths, so I apologize. So again, the charter itself is essential to our mission. And I just want to point out here that we do take responsibility for the economic, social, cultural, and overall health of the communities we serve. And that includes lifelong learners from kindergarten, preschool, all the way until you become a senior citizen. And I'll explain how we engage across the life cycle of the learner at ASU. Most important, I think, for our success has been that we think of ourselves as institutional designers, not as leaders that are simply administrators, but rather as leaders who are designing an institution to meet a particular set of purposes that are specified in our charter. So we are rethinking the university in very specific ways that I'll explain throughout this presentation. And this is because our president has been very clear. We are designing an institution to change the world. We are not administering a traditional university. And as we design our university, in everything we do, we have 8 aspirations that guide our thinking. And these are, again, very critical to how we are working and advancing our mission at ASU, because we have these at the forefront of our minds as we design our institution to achieve these objectives. And a couple I think are very important for this conference, particularly that we are committed to enabling student success and the student success of each unique student. So I will talk about personalized learning that is facilitated through technology. We are very clear that we want to fuse intellectual disciplines. The world has advanced far beyond the traditional siloed disciplines in education. We must instead think about how to fuse disciplines to address what are interdisciplinary global challenges. Most global challenges are interdisciplinary in nature. In fact, I can't name a single one that isn't. So we definitely have to think in terms of interdisciplinary programming. And of course, we must be socially embedded in our communities as we move forward. As we think about the freedom to learn, that must include all members of our community. And very relevant to this conference, we must engage globally with people and issues locally, nationally, and internationally. And I think there are, of course, other design aspirations here, but I thought these were very critical for this particular conference theme. One thing we've been very clear about, freedom to learn includes freedom of educational access. We must, as institutions of higher learning, secondary education, primary education, and lifelong learning, we must be sure that we increase access for learners around the world. At ASU, we've estimated that to meet the needs and the demand for higher education around the world by 2015, given our demographic expansion of a population of young people around the world, we would have to build a university to accommodate 25,000 students each week until 2030. We just simply don't have the capacity to build so much brick and mortar. We must think more creatively about how to enable students to have the freedom to learn wherever they are, whenever they want, and for whatever purpose they have in mind. At ASU, we've been very clear that enabling access and expanding our enrollment is something that's critical to the world's future and to Arizona's future and to the future of the United States. And here you can see that we've been very, very hard at work, increasing access at ASU, doubling our enrollment in the last 15 years. And in fact, of that 128,000 students that we teach, we have 53,997 students who are completely engaged online in our fully online degree programs. We call this digital immersion. That's an ASU lingo, that's ASU terminology, but digital immersion students. And that number increased by 25% over the last year in light of the coronavirus. Our online programs were very critical to enable us to maintain our enrollments throughout a global crisis such as the coronavirus. And I certainly am excited and hopeful that the coronavirus will open the door to universities around the world, to ministries of education, to recognize the importance of digital education to the future. I am certainly hopeful that the coronavirus is the last pandemic that we face in the world, but it's not likely to be, I expect, and we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared with education that is accessible to all people in all places, as long as they can gain access to the internet. And even if they can't, we have some technologies that enable them to continue their education. So in this particular presentation, I thought I would talk about freedom to learn in three different contexts. And the way we are defining freedom to learn is the freedom, the power to determine action without restraint. That is the definition in English of freedom itself. And we think of freedom to learn as having three important components to enable it. First, we need to be sure that we design a university fit to purpose. How do we design a university that is truly universal? The word university does imply a universality, and we need to make sure that the university is accessible universally. Two, we need to remove learner barriers to access. And I see we have a raised hand. I don't know if that's a concern about the presentation. I certainly hope not. I see that it's showing on your screen there. And then third, we need to increase engagement through technology-enabled solutions. And I'll explain some of those that have been provided and furthered at ASU. So first, we need to design a university fit to purpose, fit to the 21st century, fit to the growing number of young people and senior citizens and very young people who need education and a pathway to the university and from the university. So at ASU, we think about learning across multiple realms. Learning can be thought of as along a continuum, with a fully digitally immersed online program at one end and a full traditional campus experience at the other. But in between are many different ways that we can think about university education. Again, I see another raised hand, so let me see if I can gain access to the raised hand. I'm sorry, I can't seem to find, because of, here we are. Okay, good. Is everything okay? Still looking through? Okay, everything looks fine. Perfect. Okay, I'll continue then. So back to this slide. I'm so sorry for the delay. I just want to make sure I'm communicating what I want to communicate to you, and I'd hate that you couldn't see the slides or hear me. So, so we need to think about all realms of teaching and learning, and again along a continuum. So here at ASU, this circular representation or graphical representation reflects how we think about the university. At the center is the knowledge core. This is the intellectual assets, the intellectual property that faculty, university faculty, and teachers bring to the table to enable learning, to enable discovery, to enable creativity of our students. And that, of course, is surrounded by the university faculty and staff, schools and departments, centers and institutes, laboratories, etc. And then when you look at realm one is in one end of the continuum that includes our full campus immersion, that is on-campus, on-ground learning in a traditional format. And also we have now, in light of coronavirus, we have a hybrid format, of course many universities do, where you can both go to class if you choose, or you can learn through what we call ASU Sync, that is synchronous learning through Zoom. And we have 1,000 classrooms now that are fully technically enabled for full Zoom engagement, so students can be in class, but they can also be at home if they're not feeling well or if they have a health condition that prohibits them from joining us on campus. In addition, realm two is digital immersion, so full online courses. As I mentioned, we have about almost 60,000 students online. We also have engaged in digital immersion with MOOCs, massive open online courses, some of which include pathways into the university. So if you couldn't get accepted to university, you can take some of these massive online open courses, and if you do well enough, it might qualify you to attend ASU. We also are thinking carefully about education through exploration. How do we use virtual reality and other technologies to enable students to explore through the power of their own minds, through technology-enabled learning? And then we want to think about infinitely scalable learning. How do we create a digital environment where students can learn in a personalized way? So not just learning through some course that's offered in a MOOC, but through courseware that offers them adaptive technologies, artificial intelligence that will tune into where they are in their development and respond accordingly by offering either information that will help them come up to the level they need to pursue a particular degree, or that will take them in a direction of learning that interests them most. So employing and deploying artificial intelligence and adaptive learning to personalize an infinitely scalable learning experience. So ASU is very carefully thinking in our leadership and through our faculty and senior leaders, deans, and vice presidents about how we can deploy technology in many different ways to reach learners wherever they are and across a continuum of digital experience or campus experience. And we've designed our university as an enterprise. Internally, we really don't call ASU a university. We call it our enterprise because it has many different parts that as a whole form really an enterprise. And you can see here, this is a simplified version of that. We have enterprise partners, which is our very, very substantial public-private partnership arm that enables us to create corporations to help advance educational technology or other initiatives. We have a traditional academic enterprise that's headed by a traditional provost, a knowledge enterprise, which is about our laboratories, our research, our corporate engagements, etc. And then a learning enterprise we've just created, which is our non-degree programs captured under one umbrella to be sure that we can reach every learner wherever they are, even if they're not pursuing a degree. So the second part of this, so that's the university designed with purpose in mind. But this could be true of a high school, it could be true of an elementary school, it could be true of a community college. It doesn't matter. The idea is to use Arizona State as an example of how we can design institutions with purpose in mind, very self-consciously thinking about education and our new digital environment to advance the most innovative ways to learn. So the second part of this presentation has to do with removing barriers to access. I noted earlier the importance of access to education, and at ASU we're very focused on this. One thing that we definitely need to think about, and this varies by national context of course, but we need to think about how to ensure that income and a family's income level is not a barrier to higher education. We know that higher education is a pathway to social and economic mobility, upward mobility. The difference in income earned over the life of an individual who has a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree is vastly different than for an individual who has not attended university. And so at ASU, we've worked very hard to diversify our income streams, to remove our dependency on the state, and to build our own business and revenue streams so that we can offer that revenue to support students who could not otherwise come to university. And this graph shows that between 2002 and 2019, we've shifted the distribution of students coming to ASU, where now you can see that many of our students actually come from the lower income levels in the United States for the family income. And that's very important for us. This last year, a majority of our incoming students were either first generation college students or came from an underrepresented minority in the United States. And we are extremely proud that our student body is so diverse and that we're offering education to those who might not otherwise have opportunity to learn in a university environment. In addition to enabling access to university, we also want to serve the universal learner. And on this slide, I won't detail these various initiatives, but at ASU, we've developed elementary schools and high schools that feed into ASU. We have three such schools in Arizona. And we've also developed, on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see, we've developed a digital high school. So that no matter where you are, in the most rural regions in Arizona, in the most rural regions in Tennessee, or Indonesia, or wherever you may be, you can go to high school and be sure that you are qualified with the appropriate preparation to go to college. And ASU Prep Digital is what we call our digital high school, online high school, has been very successful, of course, in light of coronavirus. One other thing I'll mention here about the universal learner. We don't want to ignore senior citizens. I'm about to become a senior citizen. I'm 58 years old. I don't want to miss the opportunity to learn for my entire life. And of course, I learn on my own. But how wonderful to have a university who continues to help me learn all the way through my senior years. And at ASU, what we've done is we've built a senior citizen living facility. It's a condominium complex for senior citizens on our campus. Those senior citizens who are 60 years of age or older will be attending classes at ASU, will have access to the library. ASU musicians, student artists will be engaging with them with performances, with classes, and the senior citizens will be mentoring the college students because many of them are extremely successful themselves and distinguished Americans. So we are extremely excited to have on our campus senior citizens. And so we think of the universal learner from elementary school all the way to the senior citizen. How can we make sure that all of us have access to education throughout our lives? We also have to move beyond brick and mortar. Brick and mortar universities are lovely, wonderful, and in many cases quite beautiful. But they're not the only way to learn. And we've learned from coronavirus that learners are not immune to the vicissitudes of these kind of global crises, and we need to prepare. And so at ASU since 2012, we've increased our online capacity to more than 200 degree programs fully online, bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. And those are now ranked 4th in the United States in quality. And we've made great advancements in thinking about how to ensure quality, how to ensure the integrity of the learning process, the integrity of the degree, the quality of degree while it's taught online. And one way we do that is to ensure that every course online that is taught at ASU is taught by an ASU, regular ASU faculty. We do not hire just, a lecturer from outside the university to teach our online courses. Our research professors, our university professors, our tenured professors, our lecturers, full-time, all teach online. So students have access to the highest quality instruction, no matter whether they're online or on campus. We are very proud of that and think that's very important. And we also think we have to remove barriers to access by reaching the global learner. And we've done that through units at ASU. We recently purchased and acquired Thunderbird School of Global Management, which now has a Thunderbird hub in Jakarta, pleased to say, and many, many distinguished Indonesian alumni. So we're very excited about that relationship. And in addition, we've created partnerships to advance global learning. The most recent is our partnership with Santana Education. And that is a partnership that a corporation we actually created with the former CEO of Laureate Education. And I'd be happy to talk to you more in the question and answer about what that corporation does. And finally, at the bottom on the right, you'll see we created a summit that welcomed 25,000 faculty members from around the world to learn about how to teach digitally most effectively. And that included dance, that included studio arts, that included laboratory science, all of which can be taught online effectively. And finally, we need to increase engagement and access through technology-enabled solutions. So that we can advance students in terms of them as explorers, as creators, and think about learning as a social act. And one way we have conceptualized this at ASU is to think about all the ways that technology can advance students along two continuum in 4 different quadrants. The first is a student as explorer, student as social actor, student as creator, and student as individual. And on this slide, what I've shown are some of the technologies that we've used or created to accommodate students in these various different roles they play. I'll point out just 2 of them. Hab Worlds is a virtual reality program, simulation program, that enables students to create their own planets, their own atmosphere and environments on those planets, and then to travel to those planets on their spaceship in their own personalized journey. And then once they get to the planet, they're all in their space suits. They can test the atmosphere. They can test the soil. They can learn what it means to be in a low gravity environment. And so that's all done virtually and through simulation, very personalized learning experience for science or pre-science students. And then Dreamscape Immersive, in the quadrant that captures both student as explorer and student as social actor, is a new partnership we've created that has a virtual reality experience where students go to an alien world in a pod. I'll show you a picture. And they do it with joysticks in a huge black box that was built on ASU's campus to enable this virtual reality experience. And Dreamscape is a Los Angeles company that is very advanced in virtual learning, virtual reality, and we're calling it Dreamscape Learning. So that's just 2 examples, thinking about how we can advance students' learning in these quadrants using technology. So this is Dreamscape Immersive. which is part of our Dreamscape learning project. And what you see there is a student in a pod. Of course, the student is in the virtual reality believing that they're actually working in the pod, traveling around this alien planet. And the pod is enabling them to pick up rocks and to touch animals and to engage with the environment so they can learn about the biology of this alien planet. And there'll be many other ways that we can use this virtual reality to advance learning. We also think very hard about how to support educators. I mentioned the remote conference. We will be having these conferences on a regular basis. I hope that some of the participants in this conference today might be interested in joining us. It's free and it's a wonderful way to engage globally on these issues. And so we have a number of different technological solutions available for faculty members and educators at ASU on our website, and I'd be happy to share those with you. We have developed a virtual reality tour of our campus, of all of our campuses, so that you can walk in as an avatar into a building and experience the building, even if you can't be there. In light of coronavirus, we need that kind of technology, because ultimately we hope the students are all able to be there. Many are now, but we hope they're all able to be there in the future. And finally, I wanted to mention how one might be creative with technology. This is our dean of the Thunderbird School of Global Management. And this past year, of course, graduation was canceled. So the dean decided to deploy technology to create a graduation experience using robots. So I thought I'd close out my presentation to you today with a short video that shows you how technology can be deployed in the most creative way to ensure that students feel valued at the end of their higher education university degree program. So here is a brief video for you to watch.
Well, as you probably know, graduation ceremonies across the country have been either postponed or canceled. But Arizona State University's Thunderbird School of Global Management says the show must go on, and they're doing it via robot. Tonight we hear from the school's dean and one of his soon-to-be graduates in their own words.
We were really looking forward to come together and celebrate in person, walk on the stage. So when we found out that it was canceled, it was a little disappointing. I got an email, congratulations, you won this award, and somebody will get in touch with you because you'll be receiving the award via a robot. So that's all that was told. I'm like, really? Okay, this sounds exciting.
We knew it was a great experiment, the dean's folly, as I call it, but it turned out, I think, to be fantastic.
We had a couple of practice sessions.
All the students who are graduating via robot get presented by me with their diplomas. Congratulations, Julie.
We're so proud of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kagrama.
It has a program involved, very easy to learn.
They have taped the floor for us to know what path we are going to walk. And if you played your car games when you were a child on the computer, you know, the front back arrow jump, it's the same way. All you're doing is the front side back arrows to maneuver the robot. It was very fun, fascinating. And you felt like you're in the room. My parents wouldn't have been able to fly from India because of the lockdown and everything. And now they get to see this sitting at their home in Mumbai. So I'm just super happy.
COVID-19 has only accelerated the transformation in the world. We're even more digital. We're even more remote. Technology is playing even more of a role, obviously. They're going to be able to tell their children and grandchildren that they not only survived COVID-19, but they graduated during it with robot avatars.
That looks like the most important lesson in entrepreneurship and enterprise that school could have taught those graduates at all. We wish you all the very best on your graduation day. It happens on Monday. That was fun.
So I hope you enjoyed that, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you today. It's a great privilege for me, and I look forward to any questions and answers, questions that I can answer for you now. So thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Stephanie from Arizona University, the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, Ibu Stephanie is inviting questions from you that you can address to the chat room. We are waiting for your questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, if you can still hear me, if you're interested, I'm certainly happy to share the presentation with anyone who's attending the conference, of course. And if you have other questions for me, in the last slide of the presentation, I do have my email address as well as a website that you can go to contact me. And I would be more than happy to converse with you, communicate with you on anything that interests you at ASU or the presentation or global education in general.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are still waiting for some questions as we have about 2 or 3 minutes more. I think we have from Wahyu Setianingrum, yeah?
Yes, I see the question about VR at school, especially in secondary school. And I can imagine that if it works in universities, it wouldn't work very, very well in secondary school. And so if there is, if you'd like more information about how we developed our partnership with Dreamscape and how we use simulations and games, we do that also in our high schools. So I would be happy to share with you more information about how we have advanced the use of virtual technologies, simulations, gamification in our digital prep school, as well as in our high schools.
All right. Ibu Stephanie, I think we have another question from Ibu Suarsi Madya. She's a professor in our university, and she's also the speaker on the second day. The question is, I want to know about the end carried out in your university. Is there any dropout case?
Assessment.
Assessment, yeah.
Are you talking about, Professor Jana, are you talking about assessment online? And about our retention online?
I think she doesn't specifically mention the online or the other type of assessment. So it can be something in general.
Absolutely. So one thing she's asked about is dropout rates. And I cannot thank her enough for that question. If a student begins college and begins investing in their education and then drop out, it's a terrible blow to them personally, professionally, and often to their families who have had to pay for the education and then the student is not able to finish. And so you have to think very carefully about the student holistically, whether they're online, of course, or whether they're on campus, to provide them with the support for their success that they might need. So, for example, at ASU for our online students, we have a team of coaches, and they're not there to coach the student in terms of their degree programs. They are there to coach the students in the hard work of balancing life and school and family sometimes and their work, and ensuring that they continue in their educational path and along their educational path and don't drop out. And we've had some great success in reducing our dropout, or we call it stop out at ASU, those rates, to ensure retention. But there's many other aspects to this, and I would look very much to talking with you more about that, Professor Jana.
Thank you. I think we have another question, 2 other questions, Ibu Stephanie.
Great.
I think hopefully we have enough time. The first is, well, the question is how to maintain the students' engagement during online learning?
Well, I think, the students' engagement is extremely important, and this is where we are more and more relying on our simulations, especially group engagement online to ensure that students have the social networking experience that they need, working on virtual internships with companies around the world, working on virtual reality so that they can feel like they're together either on the campus. We have some wonderful technologies that enable students to be seated around a table, and they actually can feel the person on their right or turn their head and see the person on their right is a fellow student, so that they are as physically engaged as one might be able to be in a digital environment. And we've also created some hybrid experiences. So sometimes students, if they are able to, can come to campus for a summer for an intensive experience with fellow students. So it's about creativity. It's about using technology and engaging students to feel part of the social network that they're engaged in educationally. And those coaches that I mentioned reach out to students on a weekly or monthly basis to ensure that they're getting everything they need and feel engaged with ASU.
Okay, I think the question is from Pak Bradley Horn. Yeah, could you please give us a few examples of Arizona State University's partnerships with foreign governments or universities that would fit under the umbrella of freedom to learn?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Horn. I think it's a good time for me to talk about the Santana Partnership that we just created. As many of you may be aware, laureate education was a very substantial global corporation that bought universities over the last 20 years and expanded them in terms of their capacity, both in research and in educational access. And the CEO of Laureate left Laureate a couple of years ago and met our president, and we decided to start a new public-private partnership. It's a corporation in which ASU has some equity interest, and which we partner with them to advance education around the world through long-term management contracts. And these relationships with universities around the world involve licenses to ASU digital assets. So ASU, because we have more than 200 degree programs online, we have a vast repository of curricular assets. And that repository should be made available to the world, or to our partners, to enable them to expand their programs, to take advantage of the best management practices that are available in the world in terms of higher education, and use those assets and ASU's experience digitally for those universities to expand their own student enrollments, both in terms of online programs and in terms of their campus immersion programs. And so we already have we just started this partnership. We have 2 university affiliates, one in Costa Rica and one in Turkey. And we are pursuing additional affiliates all around the world, including in India, of course, in China, in Ukraine, in Colombia, in Egypt, and many other places. So we're looking forward to creating a network of universities, all what we're calling powered by ASU, but really supported by ASU's digital programming. And that's a good example, I hope, Brad. I hope that answers your question. We have many other university partnerships, of course, many other ministry partnerships, and we hope that Santana will further bolster that global footprint, that global impact that ASU is able to have. Indonesia is a very important place, by the way, in thinking about how we develop the strongest partnerships. And as I mentioned, Thunderbird School of Global Management has a new hub to offer executive education and in the future degree programs in Jakarta.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we still have 2 questions, but I'd like to combine those 2 as they are quite similar. The The question is about, can you share about any challenges in the process of implementing freedom to learn in your university, and how long did actually take it to get it established, and actually what urgent educational strategies and programs that must be prepared from now on?
Thank you for that. I think the most important hurdle or the most important challenge that universities face is simply mindset. Mindset of, faculty, staff, leaders, and sometimes even students, although students are well advanced beyond us, frankly. They're so creative, so thoughtful, so progressive in their thinking about the world. But mindset can be if the mindset is not expansive and is not willing to consider alternative designs for universities, for educational institutions, for our communities, for who our stakeholders are, then we can limit ourselves. And I think in many cases, universities have been limited where they haven't been willing to advance digitally, and they've stuck with a very traditional model. And then coronavirus has taught them that was probably a mistake. Certainly in the United States, we will see universities closing. We will see universities contracting that did not think creatively about using technology, the internet, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, the fourth industrial revolution in such a way as to ensure that university education remained relevant. And I think that is something that all of us now have to think very hard about. Universities cannot be rendered obsolete. We are essential. I think we think of ourselves as essential institutions, like hospitals. Universities are essential because they are, in many ways, the core of the development of human knowledge. And we as a species and the planet and all the species on the planet can't survive. They simply can't survive without universities being effective. And we have global challenges that require university engagement. Climate change, certainly income inequality, and many other challenges that we face, even violence, certainly in some places, that can be addressed in many ways, can be addressed through universities' engagement with their communities, with advancing knowledge, with coming up with creative solutions to address these problems scientifically, socially, politically. And this takes all of our efforts.
All right, Ibu Stephanie, it seems that the audience are very excited and they are eager to give you questions, and we still have 2 more questions if you don't mind.
Oh, of course.
All right. The first is, we know that Indonesia is a developing country which has an educational gap between the urban and suburban areas. How do you think we can improve the quality of education so that it can be evenly distributed?
A huge challenge for most countries, including the United States. In Arizona even, there are parts of Arizona where there is insufficient educational opportunity in high school for students, because the remote regions simply don't or cannot draw the teachers. And so rural areas in the United States and anywhere in the world, frankly, always or have faced some of these challenges, and that includes access to the internet. One way we've thought about this using technology to overcome this at ASU is the development of a technology we call Solar Spell, which is a unit that has solar panels on it to power it, and internally is a digital library. So a library developed the books that students might use, and then students can access that powered library through their cell phones. They don't need because they can use Bluetooth to access that library. They won't need the internet, and they can just simply use the iPhone. So there's ways that technology can help the rural learner, but that is one of the biggest challenges we face, and we have to think creatively about how to address it. So I think Solar Spell is a great example of how we've done that at ASU.
All right.
Many other good ways to do it, though, I hope.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Now the last, and this is, I think, the very last question, because we are running out of time. Well, the last question is a very basic concept. I want to know about freedom. What is actually the meaning of freedom, especially in education, besides the need for the moral and ethical education, which is badly needed?
Oh, what a wonderful question. And how essential freedom is to everything we do, but especially inside our heads, right? I remember I used to practice law in my early life, and my clients would offer me many different problems to solve, but they were my clients' problems. And when I became an academic, I could decide what problems I wanted to solve, what research questions I wanted to address, and what interested me. And I hope that for all young people, but students anywhere in their development, in their life cycle, have the freedom to decide what they want to learn about and find the resources available to them, either at a university or at some other institution. At ASU, of course, we're trying to think about offering those resources, but there are many other ways to find good resources on the internet. And so freedom to develop your own intellectual independence, creativity, and to develop yourself as an intellectual authority figure. That is the freedom that I associate intellectually with the term freedom to learn. And I tell my students and my law students often that they themselves can become authorities on any topics that they choose to understand well. And that then frees them as individuals to pursue whatever professions interest them, whatever careers interest them, and to have a great impact on the world, to free themselves from the constraints of their family circumstances, of their own limited mindset, and become themselves authorities on any topic of their choosing. That to me is the ultimate freedom, and why I hope it's clear, I'm very enthusiastic about being part of a university. I'm so fortunate to be part of ASU, but universities are just such wonderful engines of economic and social opportunity, and academic freedom is a huge part of that.
Thank you, Ibu Stephanie. It seems that everyone in this conference is very enthusiastic to listen to your inspiring presentation, as you are talking about a newly introduced issue to implement in the educational system in Indonesia. Thank you very much, Ibu Stephanie, once again. Thank you very much for your really enlightening presentation that can prepare us better to respond to the challenges of freedom to learn more appropriately. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give her a big applause for her wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, Ibu Stephanie.
Thank you to everyone at the conference and to inviting me. I'm very, very grateful for it.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. The next session is the plenary presentation. The two speakers are here, Bapak Wikan Zakarinto, ST, MSc, PhD, with the topic of freedom to learn in vocational education, policy and implementation. And the speaker is the Director General of Vocational Education of the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia. And then the other speaker is an Associate Professor from University of Otago, New Zealand, Dr. Vijay Kumar Malan. What will he be sharing with us? Let's find out about it later. And chairing the session is Ibu Endah Retnawati, PhD. Ibu Endah, would you please take the floor?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace and God blessings be upon you all, and very good morning to everybody. Okay, I may start soon by showing you a slide to introduce the speakers of these plenary sessions, if that's possible. Okay, thank you for the committee. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude that the committee invites me to be a chair in these plenary sessions. We just listened a very inspiring talk from Dr. Stephanie Lindquist from the Arizona State University. We already hear many things about the freedom, the learning, the freedom in learning, and we will have more talks about that. And especially in this session, we are having Dr. Wikan Zakarinto and also Dr. Vijay Kumar, as already been introduced by the Master of Ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce again one of our speakers. One of our speakers this morning, we will have Dr. Wikan Zakarinto. We know that he is now the Director General of Vocational Education, the Republic of Indonesia. Before being appointed as the Director General, he is a lecturer in one of public university in Indonesia, that is Universitas Gadjah Mada. He earns his PhD from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Kobe University in Japan, quite like 9 years ago. And before earning his PhD, he has degrees in engineering from the Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia, University of Twente, and also Dortmund University. His work experience is quite a lot, and as a lecturer, he has also appointed as a dean in 2016 to 2020, and also he had been a vice director and dean for academics and students affairs in the Sekolah Vokasi Gadjah Mada University in 2012 to 2016. I don't think I need to read all of this. And as a Director General of Vocational Education, starting this year, we would like to hear about freedom in learning, especially the policy and implementation for vocational education. We are also having Dr. Vijay Kumar Maland. Today, he is an associate professor of higher education at the University of Otago in New Zealand. He's been visiting Yogyakarta State University actually, I think a couple of years ago. And we all know that he is an expert in doctoral supervision and development and has been recognized by the UK Council for Graduate Education. He is one of the founding members of the International Doctoral Education Research Network. He is a distinguished scholar of the International Institute of Qualitative Research Methodology in Canada, and he also one of the National Committee members of the Australasian Higher Education Research and Development Society. He will be delivering a talk about freedom in academia and especially in doctoral education. Okay, so we have about couple of hours for these two presenters. So I would like to invite Dr. Vijay Kumar first to deliver the talks for about like 45 minutes or so. And for the participants, there is a special request from the committee here, if it is possible for you to turn the video on. Maybe the technician here can help about the video, about turning to the video, because Dr. Vijay would like to see all of us from over there. So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to set up. Just give me a few minutes, all right?
Okay. So, yeah, I think it should be. I think the technician will help us shortly.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to get my slides on. I can't seem to share that too.
Right. Okay. I think without further ado, because Dr. Wikan is coming soon, without further ado, I think I would like to invite Dr. Vijay to start the talk. And I hope everybody would like to please welcome, joining us, welcoming Dr. Vijay Malan. Please.
And I'm having a bit of a problem trying to share. I don't think you've given me permission to share my slide.
Okay, give me a second. Let me ask the technician here.
Yeah.
Can you please put him as a...
It says only the host can share the slides.
Yeah. I think, can you see the share screen menu on the bottom of your Zoom?
Yep, I am doing that, but I can't seem to get it to share.
You cannot direct us share it. Can you please try once more if you can see that menu?
Yeah, it just says only host. Yeah, so
because now you are already co-host.
Yeah, okay. I think what I'll probably do is I will just email the slides quickly to Retna's email. And if you can help me out, sorry about this.
That's okay. Take your time.
Yeah, I'll just send the slides to Retna's email now.
If you can send that to my email too, that would be faster.
Okay, I'm sending it to the conference email.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I've just sent it to you. I don't know why I can't share it. It doesn't give me the permission to share.
Well,
the
technician here already said that you can. Now you
Is
can.
Is it sharing now?
But it's a not full screen though.
See, okay.
Yeah, maybe you need to click the maximize or click the
yeah, I have done that.
Button. A little bit more. It's halfway going. We can see half of your screen.
Oh, I see. Okay, I can't seem to see my screen on the.
Okay, now we can see your slides.
Now you can see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, and is the slides on full mode now?
Not yet. It is now, yes.
Now, yes, you can see my slides?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. I can't see anybody, so it's quite odd to talk to people on a blank screen. So I don't know whether I'm told that there are about 100 over people, but I can't see anybody except Inda. So, all right, okay. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for coming and listening to me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk first, so I can finish mine faster, and then your Director General can talk longer. So he'll have more time to talk and stuff like that. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Vijay. I'm a staff at the University of Otago in New Zealand. I think there are some of my colleagues who are there online. I have been to a university, I think last year, and I met a lot of fantastic people. All right. So what am I going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about, I think Stephanie has touched a little bit about what is academic freedom, and I'm also touching about curbs to academic freedom. Freedom, particularly, I'm going to touch more on freedom in doctoral education and how that is impacted in terms of the notion of industry playing a big factor in doctoral education. And I'm also going to talk to you about some aspects of freedom in relation to doctoral candidates who, well, I'll tell you what happened to them. So my main focus is predominantly on freedom in doctoral education. Okay? Are you hearing me well and you're able to see my slide? Okay, great.
Yes, all good.
Okay, very good. Now, for some of you who do not know me, I am actually a Malaysian, and I was working in Malaysia for many, many years before I retired and went to New Zealand. And I think when I came to New Zealand, that was the first time I began to understand what academic freedom was. When I was in Malaysia as an academic staff, one of the things that me and I think a lot of colleagues across the world, we hate most is academics have to clock in and clock out. You know, we have to clock in every morning and clock out every day. And we're asking, look, we're academics. Sometimes we have classes late in the evening, and yet we have to come in the morning and clock in and then have to stay on late and stuff like that. I also needed permission if I wanted to leave the campus. I need to get my head of department to sign. I need to get so many levels of things. And courses are assigned to me, and my expertise was not necessarily a priority in the assignment of courses that I teach and stuff like that. PhD students were assigned. All of a sudden, a student will come to my office, knock on my door and say, surprise, I'm your new PhD student. You know, and these are some of the things that happen. And then there is this mandatory supervision of these students and research area. I was trained as a linguist, but along the line, my interest changed to doctoral education, and I wanted to do a lot of research in combining linguistics and doctoral education, but unfortunately, that was not something that was really approved or looked up to. So it was curbed. And of course, another thing I noticed with my students, I'm sure this must be the case of the students in Indonesia too, when you meet your supervisors, it's always, yes, you're right, and those kind of a scenario that is given. However, when I joined the University of Otago in New Zealand, probably about 9 years ago, my first experience itself was completely different. I was appointed as the head of the student learning development, and I think I had about 7 or 8 staff who were supposedly my colleagues. I'm not using the word they were working under me, but they were my colleagues. But what happened was that when I was there for a month or so, I hardly see my colleagues. They come and they go, they come and they go, and I hardly see them. And of course, I was a little bit surprised at this practice, having come from Malaysia where we had to clock in and clock out. And of course, I went and saw my boss and I told him, I said, you know, look, I've got a problem. He says, what's your problem? He said, you know, the staff in my center, I hardly see them. I don't see them coming. I do not know what is happening. I do not know where they are. And then he asked me, so what do you want to do? So cleverly and cunningly, I suggested that we should have a clock in and clock out. And he was surprised and he said, no, that is not going to happen here. And he asked me a question that actually startled me. He said, Vijay, if your colleagues are not in the office, what is your problem? He just asked me that, if your colleagues are not in the office, what is your problem? Do you know what academic freedom is? That was my first experience of what academic freedom is. And it was quite interesting. I had the choice of what to teach. He told me, you teach, these are the courses we have, these are the professional development trainings we have. You choose what is it that you are capable of teaching based on your research expertise and based on what research you want to do. I was also given the autonomy to decide on the students that I should supervise. Nobody told me, you supervise these students, these are the students. I had the liberty and the autonomy and the academic freedom in doctoral supervision. I could choose who I want. I decided who I want to supervise, and nobody decided that for me. There was nothing mandatory in this university. You know, back in Malaysia, whenever there's a meeting, they always say, kehadiran diwajibkan, mandatory, nothing doing. Here, I can choose to attend a meeting, I can choose not to attend a meeting, and my head of department says, you come to the meeting only if you can contribute some ideas. If you think there's nothing you can contribute, please don't come. Nothing is going to happen. In terms of research, I could do anything. And my supervising students from New Zealand was very different. Okay, while my students in Malaysia looked up to me and say, yes, doctor, yes, doctor, yes, doctor. My students in New Zealand will say, Vijay, you are wrong, I don't agree with you. No doctor, no nothing, they just call me by my first name. And it was very challenging. And this is another form of academic freedom that I came to know about through my experiences here. Now, Stephanie has touched a little bit about what academic freedom is, and I just want to touch on a little bit more. And I think when we talk about general freedom, we're actually talking about the right to act, to speak, to think, and to pursue happiness as you know, without any hindrance or external restrictions. This is the notion of the freedom that we talk about. But of course, we all know that there's no absolute freedom. And why is freedom so important, and why is it so crucial? Why is it that many people across the regions are asking for academic freedom? Is because I think it leads to enhanced expressions of creativity, original thought, increased productivity, and of course, the high quality of life. Now, in terms of academic freedom, I will touch on academic freedom before moving on to freedom in doctoral education. I think it's freedom for academic staff and students to question and test received wisdom. So if I relate this to my own students back in Malaysia when I was teaching, I don't think the students are trained to actually question or to ask. Okay? So I do not know whether that is a culture, that is an abuse, or that is not something when we talk about in terms of freedom. Academic freedom also means you can put forward new ideas. And there is that liberty, there's the freedom to put forward new ideas, knowing that there will be no repercussions because this is an intellectual input and stuff like that. You're also able to state controversial or unpopular opinions. And of course, as Stephanie has highlighted, I think in one of the slides that she said, is about engaging in research. So when we talk about academic freedom, it is the freedom to teach and to conduct research without fear or concern for retribution. So that is the notion of what academic freedom is. And universities, I use the word usually in bold. The universities are usually given a degree of autonomy and greater freedom of expression. I use the word usually. Now, I'll explain a little bit later as to why I did that. Now, when we talk about academic freedom, there are a lot of curbs too in terms of censorship and in terms of control. What are some of these? They are the limitations on scientific inquiry. So sometimes there is always the question of the kind of research you do or the scientific inquiry that you do, what is legitimate and what is appropriate. And there's, of course, a lot of discord between what university thinks and what the government thinks. So this is where the issues are. So let me just talk to you about some examples. In Turkey in 2016, a number of professors were alleged to overthrow the government and they were dismissed. Okay, these professors were voicing their opinions. So what happened to the academic freedom of these professors who had different views from the institutions? In Hungary in 2019, gender studies courses were closed down because some people thought that this is not something that you should talk about or discuss at the level of university. in Indonesia 2019, there was this case of the Lokataru Foundation talking about weakening academic freedom and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to touch a lot on Indonesia because I'm a little bit scared, because I know that Retna and Suarse and people will probably invite me again next year. So I do not want to come to the airport, and sorry I have to say this in Bahasa Indonesia, I come to the airport and and somebody says to me, selamat datang di Indonesia Pak, and then they say, sila ikuti saya, polisi sedang menunggu Pak. I don't want that to happen, and they say, polisi ngapain? Apa yang saya lakukan? And they tell me, Pak bicara menentang kebebasan akademis dan bosnya enggak senang. So that's when I'll get into trouble. And I'll say, bisakah saya minta maaf? And they're going to say, oh, tidak ada pengampunan, Pak. So I don't want to get into any of those trouble, all right? So I'm not going to touch too much about the case of Indonesia, because you might know what is happening in your own region. Now, moving on, there is also this repression of free expression in terms of prohibition. There is intimidation. There's dismissal of discussion, just like the example I gave you. There's the accusation of treason and all these things. And I think one very popular case is the one that you can see on your slide. That is the one about the Saiful Mahdi's case. It's made a lot of rounds on the internet and stuff like that. And I think one of the things he was criticized, he criticized the result of the civil servant test, and then there was some criminal defamation and stuff like that. So, and they said that it's written in Malay, peserta dengan nilai tertinggi tingkat fakultas dan kedua tingkat universitas, namun setelah mengikuti tahapan subjektif, ia dinyatakan tidak lulus. So, this is a little bit different, and these are some examples of this kind of things that are happening. Now, in terms of doctoral education, the freedom usually relates to the choice of topic, the choice of supervisors, procedural processes, the risk to physical and mental health, and then there's also the issue of whether you publish or patent. This is where the industries come in and play a very important role. But I think there's also these changing needs. And because of these changing needs, the outcomes of PhD and the expectations and requirements are changing. And so what is happening is that instead of purely a quest for knowledge and to extend the borders of knowledge, sometimes research topics are assigned or made mandatory for economic purposes. The question is this a form of impinging on freedom of research when it comes to doctoral education? Now, in some universities, when I was having conversation with some of my colleagues, there are a lot of procedures. Like, for example, at the University of Otago, we have what you call a student supervisor memorandum of understanding, and the student needs to agree to certain procedures of the universities or the supervisors and stuff like that. And of course, when the student makes an agreement with the supervisor, there's always this aspect of power imbalance. And is that another form of what you call impinging on the academic freedom of the candidate and also the supervisor? Some supervisors may say, look, we don't need all these procedures and policies. I'm a good supervisor. I have supervised more than 10 or 15 students, and I know what am I doing. Why do I need to sign this agreement? Why do I need to do this? And why do I need to do that and stuff like that? So there is this notion that is related to doctoral education. Now, Gibbs in 2016, he mentioned about this. Research is compromised when academic freedom is structured by governments. So these are some of the things that are happening in so many parts of the world. Another study, quite recent one that was just published this year, is about the freedom to have input into learning outcomes and approach. What this means is that the student will have a lot of input into how he wants to approach his PhD, how he wants to approach his research, and how he wants the whole experience to be. Of course, there's a lot of guidance within the institution and with the supervisors that are given. But the question is how much of the identity and the voice of the student stays on. All right. I remember, when you talk about doctoral education, when you talk about doctoral freedom, sometimes many supervisors are not aware that they are in fact taking away the voice and the identity of the student. I'll give you an example. When I was the chair of an oral examination in one of the universities, and of course, this was in the oral examination room, and I was the chair, and one of the of course, the three supervisors were there, and the examiners were there too. And one of the examiners asked the question to the candidate: you did a qualitative study and you interviewed only 5 people. Do you think that is enough for a PhD? Of course, any PhD candidate would use some academic reasoning to have answered that question. Over the past few years, this is what people have done, and that is why I'm doing this. But you know what this candidate said? When the examiner asked, why did you use only 5 people? The candidate just pointed his hand to the supervisors and said, I wanted to do more, but some people on this table, indicating that it was the supervisors who decided how many people to interview. And the student did not just stop there. He said, whatever you're reading in my thesis is not my work. Every time I write and I give my supervisors, they change everything that I write. They do massive editing. They change everything. Each supervisor does something. In the end, when I look at my work, I do not know which part of it is mine. They have taken away my voice and they have taken away my identity. So what happened to the freedom of the candidate? So what will happen to the envisioned original contribution of PhD if another matter is if the industry is allowed to lay claim to what is deemed suitable and relevant? You find that a lot of research is being done, sponsored, funded by industries. But when it comes to industries, then there are other issues that come on, like the work of Roulard in 2015. It says when industry is involved, I'm not saying that getting industry is bad, but what is happening is that it has an impact on the freedom of how the research is going to be structured or how the research is going to be progressed. There's going to be too much a focus on non-academic activities. Knowledge transfer is going to remain indirect. There's the restriction of creativity and deep thinking because everything seems to be structured. But what happens is that once that industrial work is done, the student returns to an academic environment and totally lost. Sometimes, because of the sensitive nature of the research in the industry, the outcome may be confidential and it doesn't contribute towards the broadening of the existing knowledge. At times, there are also non-publishable research. And there's also the notion of poor alignment of work and stuff like that. Now, let me just give you some examples of how some researchers were detained, arrested, and even murdered because of their doctoral research. Many of you may have heard of this guy, Matthew Hedges. He was a PhD student at Durham University, and his topic was on what has driven the United Arab Emirates military spending since 2001. Quite a naive, interesting topic. So how do they spend the money? What do they do and stuff like that? He went to the UAE to collect the data. And as he was collecting data, interviewing people, all this was done with permission. He was arrested on suspicion of spying for the British government. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. There was wide range of international protests. His wife campaigned, and at the end of it, he was pardoned and released. Now, this was a PhD student, and this is clearly an aspect where freedom in doctoral education has been challenged, where the state has decided they put up a charge on him and they just put him behind bars. Another interesting case is of Ziyu Wang. This guy is an American Chinese. He was a Princeton doctoral student. His study was also quite interesting. He wanted to gather archival research on this Qajar dynasty in Iran. The Iranian government gave him prior approval. All the papers were there. He went and he started collecting data, interviewing people, talking to all these people to find out more details and stuff like that. And of course, he was charged with espionage, and he was there for 10 years. And in the end, he was only released as a result of a prison swap. This is again a case of another doctoral student who was victimized. Okay. There's more. This is about Homa Hudford. She's a Canadian-Iranian professor. It's not just the students, but also academic staffs who become victim where the academic freedom or the freedom in research is not respected. Of course, Homa's research or study might be considered controversial in some parts of the world. So she was studying about the repression of women's status in Muslim societies. So there were some aspects of the hijab, whether to wear the hijab or why should, it becomes sensitive to certain communities. Because she was from Iran, but she's only a sort of a citizen in Canada, she just traveled back home, personal reasons to visit family and stuff like that, and also to do some research. When she was, I think about 2 or 3 days before she was supposed to fly off to the UK, the Iran's Revolutionary Guards detained her. 112 days. She went through psychological torture, and she was only released after international pressure. See, this is again how academics are, and of course, the most saddest one is about Regini. This is an Italian student. He was doing his PhD in Cambridge, and his topic was about Egypt's independent trade union. I don't know what is so sensitive about this. He traveled to the UAE to conduct research. He was abducted, tortured, and killed. And this was a very big case with Amnesty International. Even now, people still meet to sort of gather and to remember this particular PhD student. And I think from these cases and stuff like that, what comes to my mind is that the safety of the doctoral candidates who are embarking on a PhD or even academic staff, I think it rests with the university. Now, what do I mean by rest with the university? Now, one clear example that I notice here at the University of Otago is that whenever we have students who come to us and tell us, look, I'd like to go to this country and this country to collect data, we are very, very cautious about giving them permission. We are very cautious. We do a thorough check. We have the Ministry of Internal Affairs that comes in, so the different levels of approval they have to go through before they can go back and do the research. So the university takes it upon itself to be very, very serious to make sure that if our PhD candidate goes to a country and is doing some research, that they will not fall into the same category of all these cases that I've spoken about. So I think this is probably one aspect that is important. Now, quite recently, there were cases about COVID-19. I think I was quite impressed when Stephanie was telling about how the Arizona State University campus is going about, stuff like that. But quite recently, the issues, I think I read about the case both in China and also in Indonesia, where students started, sort of a protest saying that, look, we don't have direct classes. Why are we still paying the same fees? And they wanted a reduction and stuff like that. Students were suspended, and all kinds of actions were taken. And here again, in New Zealand, we also had the same case where I think one university in Wellington started charging students for the hostel, even though it was COVID, and all the students returned home. And of course, there was a lot of negotiation that is going on, and the university explained to the students, look, if you guys don't continue paying the fees, there were 300 people in the hostel who are going to lose the job, And so what happened, I think there was some form of negotiation, and then I think they came up with a way forward. I can't remember the details of the cases, but it was solved with a lot of discussion, and the students understood, look, we will not pay the full amount, but perhaps give us a discount. But what was important here is that the university and the government listen to the voices of these doctoral students. So sometimes the actions that we do, because students raise the voice in terms of their research, in terms of their rights and stuff like that, we might be going against justice, efficiency, transparency, and all this form of public accountability. I think in a concluding kind of a remark, what I can say is that the academic freedom in terms of doctoral education and research, it varies according to a lot of political cultures. And I think I like the notion of what Stephanie said just now, it's all in the mindset. And I think to add on to what Stephanie said, I think the mindset is the biggest hurdle when we're talking about both academic freedom or freedom in doctoral education. And I think in Indonesia, there is a step that has been taken by 11 public universities, have been given the financial and organizational autonomy. But again, the question that I think the international community would like to see over the next years, in forthcoming years, is that does this translate to, in a true sense of the word, to academic freedom and also freedom in doctoral education? Of course, we all know there's no absolute freedom, and I think there should be the relationship between the enforcers or so-called the state and the universities and everything has to be one of mutual need and understanding. But I still think that free expression should not be curbed. We need criticality and moderation to seek the truth. And I think the suppression of academic authority, it may indicate the rejection of science-based truth. And I think one international law or treaty or whatever you call that is called the International Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. And it's quite interesting to note that Indonesia is a signatory. And I also read about the Freedom Campus Policy, which I think by the Ministry of Education and Culture, these are all very positive moves that are being done to regulate transparency and also accountability. And I think to finalize what I have to say, I think university should be an arbiter of truth and not a contributor to democracy's paralysis. And this particular quote came from a newspaper I was reading. This is I think it's called the Indonesian Times. And I think academic expression should be protected. Those are my views. I hope I have not taken too much of the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very inspiring talk that we have just listened. And I really like the last slide here, the academic expression should be protected. We will be having question and answer session, but later, after Dr. Wikan finishes his talk.
Sure, no worries.
Yeah, he's already here. I would like to invite him to turn his video on. Dr. Wikan, are you in now?
Yeah, good morning. Assalamualaikum.
Dr. Wikan, the floor is yours now.
Okay. Can I share screen PowerPoint?
Sure, you can. We haven't seen it yet, but maybe soon.
I'm still not allowed to share my PowerPoint.
Let me ask the technician again.
Yeah, could you please? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to apologize as of my late appearance in these sessions because I'm now in the Polytechnic Bandung. So I'm just in the middle of the meeting in Bandung. But anyway, I'm yours totally now. So anyway, thank you very much. I would like to share my PowerPoint, but still not.
You should be able to share your file now. Can you see the share screen button on the bottom of your screen?
Yeah. I click. I keep clicking, and still host disable attend the screen sharing.
Okay, maybe just a couple of seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. to all attendees and presenters and all leaders in these sessions. Thank you very much. And I would like to deliver very warm regards from our Minister, Mas Menteri Nadiem Makarim. He keeps sending his very warm regards to all vocationals and all academics people in Indonesia. And just recently, yesterday, he just launched his 6th Merdeka Belajar package, in which very much connected and very much relate to higher education. Okay, now I can share my. Okay. So, okay, this is my slides, and I hope you can see my slides. So we are from Directorate Jenderal Pendidikan Vokasi.
We can see it clearly. Can you please click the full screen button so we can see?
Yeah. I will click anyway, but I will jump further and back, so I'll do it later. So anyway, I'm going to let you know about the policy of vocational education system in Indonesia. And this is going to be very much on what Mas Menteri announced yesterday and few months ago about the Merdeka Belajar package. And perhaps it's going to be like a project-based learning, but very much it's going to be quite how we really develop the curriculum and deliver the teaching based on soft skill and etc. So, but anyway, this is us, Directorate Jenderal Vocational Education. We are responsible for 2,000 campuses, polytechnics, universities, institutes, and etc., and 15,000 SMK or vocational high school, training centers, vocational training centers, and it's more than 17,000. And our Merdeka Belajar policy is about link and super match. So not only signing MOU and then just let the MOU slips. It's going to be, I'm not expecting it's going to be slipping MOU or half slipping MOU. So it should meet the minimum condition of what so-called marriage between vocational educations, institute and industries. So, and our policy is also start from the end. So start from the user want, what industry want, what market wants, and what community wants. So start from the end. All of this. And this is the output that we really would like to see. So not only cognitive, but how the curriculum and also how the teaching methods ensure that the graduates not only cognitive, but also communication skills, leadership, problem-solving skills, presentation skills, critical thinking, creativities, English proficiency skills, and honesty characters. And this should be ensured by the curriculum and by the teachers, all professors. So I've shown these slides many times, and the first priority is how to connect the curriculum based on industry and how to make sure that the teaching and delivery methods, and we could say project-based learning, could be realized to come up with the graduates looks like this. This is the thing that not difficult to write or to draw to be such a good slide. But this is not easy since we need to change our mindset of our teachers and our leaders. So before going into this deeper, so okay, this is also the roadmap for research teaching industry. So I would like to let you know about the background. So disruption, technology disruption era takes place in Industry 4.0. I'm not going to talk about this too much. We know this already. We know this, and we are realized, we are aware that we are already within this era. But the thing is, none of us really know how to respond to this era. Technologies likely to be adopted in 2025, and as you can see, it changed. So what doesn't change is the change itself. And it keeps changing, like cloud computing, big data analysis, Internet of Things, and etc. The thing is, how the curriculum and how the teacher deliver the teaching material to deal with this phenomenon. Not that easy, because mindset of teachers comes first. So Indonesian demographic, we know this. We are very soon coming into this era, the Indonesian demographic, and our president, Mr. Jokowi, keeps stating about human resource development. To develop the human resource, we need to make sure that these all aspects are done. Not only curriculum, but also teachers, internships, and etc. So sometimes I would say that the final version of curriculum is the teachers. Sometimes. So teachers' mindset is taking significant place to realize what our president expects. The human resource of Indonesia who are competent, skillful, and with a higher dignity. It depends very much on the curriculum connected with industry and how to deliver the curriculum. So I'm going to go on this very quick country profile, not so much. And this is the fact. Indonesian labor productivity is still in the 4th place at the ASEAN level, and 11th out of 20 member countries of ASEAN. So it's not such a good news, but it's challenging anyway. We are going to have a lot of people who are in the golden age to be a productive worker. Global competitiveness reports, Indonesia competitiveness somehow dropped 5 place from 45 to be 15th. So one of the main problem is innovation capability, ICT, and adoptions. And again, this is more into soft skill. So please, this is our policy. The Merdeka Belajar and any other policies, we really push. We are very much pushing on this curriculum, and teaching delivery should ensure these combinations. Cognitive, it's somehow important, but soft skill, integrity, and character, very much more important. So please bear on this. Again and again, we have to change our mindset. So coming into the current and future works, as we can see here, there are job loss and job emerging. Data analysis and scientists increase quite dramatically, and what decrease is data entry clerks. So we know this. Maybe some of us have seen this slide because I adopt from many sources. So, but we don't exactly know how to react, to change, to modify our curriculum, and how to change and to modify the teaching delivery. So top 15 skills, as you can see here, critical thinking and analysis. It's very much more dominant, expected by industry compared to core literacies. Core literacies, not so much, but problem solving, self-management, technology use, digital technology, this is more important. So why do we keep our curriculum just based on our belief, which is still somewhere in the past, not in the future mindset? So again and again, coming back into mindset change of teachers, leaders of us. This slide is very much somehow making us sometimes laughing on this, or maybe smile. So monkeys elephants, and fish to be tested and to be examined with only one examination, which is they have to climb up the trees. Students who cannot climb up the trees, then we will consider they are not so clever, or sometimes they are not good students. But actually they are different. So how we really adopt this into our curriculum? How we adopt this into our teaching method? Change our curriculum, change our methods. And that is very much Merdeka Belajar. If we still put them, we still assign them we address them one type of examination, so we do not apply Merdeka Belajar. There are no freedoms to express based on their passions, their talent, their way of thinking. And yeah, we are now developing the new curriculum, and it's going very much on project-based learning. So bring industry to school doesn't mean if there are expensive machines in industry, then schools must have those expensive machines. That's completely wrong. That's very much wrong. Instead of that, we should bring their mindset into the school, the industrial mindset, industrial professionals, industrial real project. Bring those into the class and split the students into groups and make them to deal with the project, to come up with the product that satisfy industry who own the project. And we can use that with multi or many majors. So many teachers can work collaboratively within one project and just make those students to deal with the projects, teamwork, discussions, communications. So sometimes they have to go to industry to get what industry want, and then they learn how to understand what they want, and then they come back to the class, and then they make it, they put it, they arrange it into the product. And if the students, those teams, cannot satisfy the industry, it means they don't pass the pager. Make it like that. Very simple. Don't teach too much. Don't teach too much. The easiest way to teach to our students how to swim is just put them into the pool or put them into the sea. Instead of sending them to the sea, just bring the sea into the class. And that's what project-based learning means. So bring the sea into the class. Real challenge into the class. Just let them learn by doing the projects. So that's what's called project-based learning. So teachers can be facilitators, can be teachers, can be mentors. So it's very dynamic. And within one semester, students can get 2 or 3 projects, multi-majors. So lintas disiplin, transdisciplines, cross disciplines. So teachers' effective way to facilitate. It's easy to see. It's easy to read. I can read this for penetrating all the audience. But the thing is, start from the mindset. If teachers doesn't want or do not want to change, then yeah, the curriculum just will be like theoretical, not so much vocationals. Vocationals means real product. So creative and teaching factory as well. So teaching factory, teaching industry can be based on the project-based learning. And that can be assigned into the Merdeka Belajar program. There are many things that we can connect with this 8 Merdeka Belajar package. Okay, student exchange. Student exchange, not so much, it depends, but student exchange can be also, we can adopt project-based learning as well, but with other programs, with other majors or other campus. Still, project-based learning still also potential on this. Magang or internship, that's very much soft skills. Applied research or maybe KKN, community service based on applied research, applied technology, innovations. Entrepreneurship, okay? I think it's very related with the project-based learning, this one as well, and yeah, this one as well. So I would like to let you know that when Mas Menteri keep telling us about Merdeka Belajar, actually he was driven by the fact that the students or the graduates are not too much into the soft skill aspects. So they tend to upgrade their hard skill, but not so much relevant with what industry wants. And the industries keep complaining. The industry keep complaining about the graduates. And those complaints, most of those, soft skill that they complain. Okay, so maybe this one, yeah. This slide is what we promised to the People Representative Board, DPR. What we promised to Bappenas, what we promised to our President. This slide is what we promised on what or to where vocational educations will be heading on. The graduates should be like this. Okay, this is what we promised. So this is the graduates. Curriculum should be adaptive, agile, and flexible, and to be created, designed, and approved together with industry. Very clear. Not only curriculum, but also the teaching, delivery, methods, and project-based learning. Project-based learning, yes. Applied research, the product to be delivered to the market and society. So don't ever start conducting research, vocational research, only want to publish the paper. I'm not saying publication is not correct. Publication is fine. But if there is only publications, no product, then I would say that's wrong. Product comes first, to be property right and patent. To be published, it's fine, no problem. This. So from TRL1 until TRL9 to the customers, or TRL1, TRL9 to the community. And all should be coming up with product tangible or intangible product. So it should come up with real product. To be published, fine, no problem. But first thing is that product first, publication, fine, no publication, also fine. And that's going to be what we are now innovating and modifying on many regulations. So I'm telling you that we are now modifying regulations from undang-undang, peraturan presiden, Permendikbud, ministry regulations, and maybe Dirjen regulations. Maybe there will be more 20 regulations, a lot. How to develop new prodi, new program, how to hire new lectures, accreditations, promotions, how to promote to be higher position for vocational lectures, not publications, but product. With publication, fine. So many regulations. It's going to be the platform of the massive marriage, link and super match. So that's the research. Teaching factory, teaching industry. We also promise to DPR. Input, new students should be with passion and visions. So this is very challenging. If we still recruiting, or we still accepting students with very, very less patience and no visions, then it's going to be very hard to come up with the graduates that look like this. Okay? So we want students like Ryan Giggs, young Ryan Giggs. Maybe his football skills was not so good, but their mindset, Ryan Giggs mindset, his passion, his visions is strong. So he can be self-learner. He learns independently. Okay? Entering the class discussions, not to be passive students. So that's what we need. So please bear on this. Student achievement. I'm not expecting all are good GPA. Okay, GPA is fine. Okay, GPA, IPK is fine. But we expect they are very good in achieving to be champion in like debate competitions, sport competitions, arts, science competition, and etc. Because they will be the leader. They will be the leader. If they're only good in IPK or GPA, I'm not sure they will be the leader. So they have to be good in soft skill, communication, leadership, and etc. And please, our curriculum should be friendly. Our teaching method should be friendly to those students who wants to be entrepreneurs, who wants to be champion in debate competitions, who wants to be champion in other competitions. Our curriculum still not so much friendly to all of this. For example, students who manage to develop their business and then they can do some business, but still curriculum doesn't acknowledge that. Still they have to follow the class from the beginning until the examination phase. So please, if those students manage to develop business, very, very fine. So just give them A in many majors. To be frank, our teachers still are not in favor for that. I'm teaching, so they have to be here and they have to be taught by us. They have to be taught by me because I'm teacher, I'm teaching. If they don't attend the class, that doesn't mean they are learning. Again and again, mindset of teachers, mindset of leaders, this one, and this one. Entrepreneurship. Please modify the curriculum to support this. Please. Coming back into this. Okay, coming back into the research. Don't think that publishing and wants to be professors with no regards of this. Please stop that mindset. What's the use of professors, of vocational professors who are very focusing on paper, but the results doesn't satisfy, doesn't match to what industry want. Stop being document administration champion. Change becomes substance champion. Okay, like accreditation of A, but the students, the graduates do not satisfy the industry. What for? What for the A accreditations? Only document. So we changed now we modify the accreditation system. Don't worry about that. But still, mindset should come first. Entrepreneurship. PTNBH, BLU, strong branding, RPL, visiting lectures should be very much important. It should be very, very important. So ask the professional swimmers to teach, to train students how to swim, not only us. Get them from industry expert to be teachers. International collaborations. This is also what we promise. Please develop applied master, join with German University, Fachhochschule, join with Taiwanese applied university. And please develop the applied bachelors. increase the diploma 3 become diploma 4. I'm not saying it's a must, but it's all up to you. Maybe next week or next 2 weeks, we will release the regulations to upgrade diploma 3 become diploma 4 or applied bachelor's, but with the conditions of this. Not memes, okay? Not D4 memes, but D4 pernikahan link and match. D4 like this. Okay? So, but it's all up to you if you want to maintain your diploma 3, or it's all up to you, or the leaders, campus leaders. But we will release maybe next 2 weeks. And okay, and diploma 2. Okay, this one also. So diploma 3 to be increased to be diploma 4. Diploma 2 to be massively developed and with SMK Fast Track D2 program. It's triangular marriage, SMK, industry, and campus. So there will be very many more diploma 2 graduates than diploma 4 graduates, because the pyramid of a worker, we need more diploma 2 more than diploma 4. Okay, and we will connect the SMK with polytechnics and universities. Okay, I think that's all my my presentations. So back to all of this, project-based learning and this policy will be one by one release, starting from maybe next week, 2 weeks from now. SMK diploma 2 fast track, and upgrading diploma 2 to diploma 3 become diploma 4. And the promotions of lectures, curriculum, accreditations, new lectures, and RPL and etc. maybe will be following very soon. So I think that's all my my presentations, and I hope this can be our priority to be concerned and to work on those destinations. Because please stop only focusing on documentation and administrative. I'm not saying it's not important. It should be accountable, yes. It should be accountable, but please focus on substance change. Please, mindset change and breakthrough, making new breakthrough, modify the curriculum, more connection with industries, and please project-based learning, bring industry to school, bring the project into the class, and that's going to be the policy, at least for the next 5 years. Thank you very much. Back to you, Bu Endah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak Dr. Wikan Zakarinto, the Director General of Vocational Education. Right, so now it's time for you all to ask questions. There are actually several questions already written in the chat room. However, I would like to invite one of them, Ibu Professor Suarsih Madya, to ask directly to both of you, because there are questions for Dr. Vijay and also for Dr. Wikan.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
Vijay. Nice to see you again, even it's only virtually. Can you hear me, Vijay? Hello.
Ibu Suarsih, can I ask you to turn your video on so we can see you?
Oh, sorry.
If you don't mind.
No.
Now we can see you.
Hi, Vijay. It's nice to see you now, even virtually. Now, I'm very curious about how your university, it was an inspiring talk, how Otago University has protected the researchers who are doing projects on sensitive issues, like, a bit political and, like that. That's, I think, one question which I'm really curious, because it's very important for us to learn. And in Indonesia, not only Indonesia, in developing countries in which political stability is not reached, usually, very sensitive issues on politics, and that leads to the slow growth of social sciences. Okay, can I ask another question to Pak Wikan?
Sure.
Now, Pak Wikan, I'm very glad to hear about the breakthrough made by the Ministry of Education. However, it's not easy to ask the teachers to change mindsets, because teachers work in the context of political social context there. Not only when it's very easy for us to ask them, but say, for example, I met teachers and they told me frankly that, in fact, they like freedom to learn. And then, in the past, for example, the assessment, because they are asked to reach a certain level of passing grade, the number of students passing, they manipulate, then they manipulate the grades. And, this kind of teachers are really good, but they cannot do more than what they can do to save themselves from their condita, for example, it's what you call it, the supervision. And the supervisors, pengawas, are not all from the same course, the same field of study. So I think the ministry, I support the idea of that, but I request that all of these should be involved in decision making, like the principals and the criteria for selecting the principals too should be changed. The way to assess the teachers should be changed, and whatever, it's not just launching, because it's very easy to launch, but it takes a long time to really change the mindsets. That's the hardest or the biggest challenge. And even I spoke to my students, but still, if I say, okay, you are free to speak in my class, but they still keep silent, for example, so I would like to know what actions have been planned to accompany this breakthrough, which is really great. I do really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think I'll answer first, because my answer will be a lot shorter. All right. And I think to have your Director General there, I would be very curious to ask him a lot of questions and stuff like that. But to answer your questions, Warse, you see, at the University of Otago, we are very particular about the kind of research, especially, I can talk in terms of doctoral education research and the PhD that we supervise and stuff like that. So we do have students coming from sensitive regions who think that by coming and doing a PhD here, they can choose a topic that they use to hit the places where they come from, so to speak. So we are very conscious about the aftermath of them completing the PhD, and even the supervisors and the university, usually we normally have a serious kind of a discussion with the student to find out, look, how can we actually do this research so that it shows a level of moderation, in the sense that we are very keen that when you graduate and when you go back to wherever you are, you will remain alive. We are very conscious and very cautious about it. So we have a lot of discussion with the students, and very often than not, our success rates has been very high. And the student keeps telling us, no, don't worry, I'm not going back to my country. He said, that is not the issue. You can be anywhere and you can still be traced and located, and these are sensitive issues, And there are also times when what we do is we do, I think the process is called, we embargo the thesis, where it is not published or it is kept and stuff like that. So those are under very extreme cases, and this is where the Ministry of Internal Affairs comes in and stuff like that. So to cut the story short, we're very cautious. And as far as possible, we try to avoid the sensitive topics. That includes even for academic staff. So that is one of the things that we do. So it's not just the ethics, but it comes through different levels of security measures and stuff like that. A second thing, if at all we ultimately allow the students to do a sensitive research, so it is not just a matter of approval, the institution is responsible for their safety. Like I'm sure you might have heard that there are some research that takes place in Antarctica, which is what which the University of Otago is. So there are some sensitive aspects there which I can't reveal in public here, but if the university gives the students the permission, then there are measures taken to ensure the safety of the student. So the institution plays that guardian role. Okay, I think we'll go to Dr. Vijay. I think I see a lot of questions for him. I don't think you're going to go off easily, Vijay, today.
Okay, Dr. Wikan, can you please?
Okay, thank you very much, Vijay. I'm so much enjoying your presentation. So thank you very much for your very, very nice presentations. I've been learning a lot from you, Vijay. So as for Bu Suwarsi, yes, indeed, I do agree with Bu Suwarsi. People mindsets change is very, very difficult to deal with. But without mindset change, how much our money, how much our budgets to be delivered to SMK or to vocational campus, if their mindset still in the comfort zones, no breakthrough mindsets, then it's going to be just building and facilities. But the graduates still complain by industries, and we will not get so many entrepreneurs. So I do agree. And it's very difficult to deal with. So I think I would like to let you know two strategies. First thing is that, first strategy is we have to be really engaged to all lecturers or to all teachers. I'm telling you one thing. This year, we developed 440 SMK Center of Excellence. And we deliver quite a lot of money to each SMK. I myself, I was one of the trainers for BIMTech. At least 6 times, I've been the trainers of them. And that's not enough. I've got engaged with all of those principals. Sorry, I'm telling principals. I'm not engaged with 440 principals in WhatsApp group, and every morning, I send them regards, I send them informations, many things, material every morning. So not only BIMTech, but I want to really know how they are touched by us. So communications, engagements, sometimes to be very personal engagements, that works out. And it's been working quite fine out. But it's tiring. I'm telling you, it's very tiring. Every morning, I send to many WhatsApp groups, 1,000 principals every morning. I make a YouTube vlog. I'm a YouTuber, okay? Vijay, I'm also a YouTuber. I keep sending them nice poster with nice words and etc. So that's one thing. So I want to make them personally realize what the value of life means of their own. So they have to change by their own, and they can be guru penggerak or kepala sekolah penggerak to change, to be the sons, to be the inspirations to others in their area. But still, I should not stop communicating with them. So that's one thing. Next thing is regulations, of course. I told you, undang-undang, Permendikbud, curriculum, etc. So we changed the curriculum. We changed to be the professorship. So by regulations. And then we are not going to send any rupiah to campus or to SMK who are not convincing us that they've got ready in their mindset or their leaders. Networking, link and match, etc. Please prove us, and then we will give the funding. Next thing is IKU, indikator kinerja utama, main performance indicator. officially signed by all rectors, all directors of polytechnics with us. 8 indicators that have been explained by our minister just yesterday. If you take a look at those 8 is very main indicator that generally will affect our other sub-indicators. And there are so much what I've just present during my presentations. Soft skills, leaderships, networking, product-based, project-based. Just take a look at those 8. Employability, what industry wants, what the community wants, entrepreneurship, make the teachers to go for internship at least once in 4 years. If we teach swimming, if we train swimming, then we got to be able to swim. It's ridiculous. If we cannot swim, then we are teaching how to swim to our students. So just take a look at it. So number 2 is regulations, and there will be more regulations. Accreditations, we change. Now we are modifying, and etc. So coming back in the number 1s, just make them as a persons. What's the value of life of them, and then make them to be driven by themselves. If they are not working out, then number 2 will take place. Okay, back to you, Bu Indah.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. We have one more.
And, but still very difficult. Okay, it's still very difficult.
I will highlight that in the conclusion later.
One more question. Can I have one more question?
Pardon me, Bu Suarse. We don't have much time, but if the time permits, I will invite you again to give to ask the questions. But we have here Bapak Suparno. Bapak Suparno, would you like to ask your questions to the speakers now?
Okay.
Would you please kindly turn your video on? Thank you. Now we can see you.
Yeah, I put already on. Well, for the first speaker, Dr. Vijay, you mentioned a lot of threat for the PhD students from all over the world. The question is very simple. Is there any freedom at all? And the second question for Dr. Wikan, the same question actually, is there any freedom at all when the product has to satisfy the customer? It means that lots of other products will be thrown away from the market. Is there any freedom at all? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for that first question about is there, I presume that your question is there any freedom at all to do whatever kind of research that you want? I think I would definitely say there is, and I would say it all depends on the traditions that you're in. Okay, as I've given you the example of 2 traditions where I was working. Okay, as I told you, I was working in Malaysia and I was working in New Zealand, and the difference that I saw. You see, and the difference that I saw and the kind of mandatory kind of things that I was asked to do in one tradition, whereas here I'm given the total freedom to do what I want. I can research whatever I want here in New Zealand, and nobody will stop me, but they will support me. But I got to be careful as to what I'm doing. You see, like one research that I'm involved with a colleague in Malaysia is I'm studying about all the stress that is being put on the academic staff, okay? And one very common stress is the decan putting everybody in WhatsApp group and sending messages whenever he feels like sending a message. He doesn't respect the academic staff's private time, their family time, or whatever. And part of the research, when I wrote the paper, of course, I was writing this with a colleague of mine in Malaysia, and one of the statements I made is that, look, if your bosses are sending you messages or texts after office hours, they are showing no respect to you as a person, as a father, whatever it is. And when I wrote that, my colleague said, look, I can't write this in my paper and publish and have my name there. I'll lose my job. You know what I mean? But I can do it here. If I write it here, I can publish it. Otago University encourages us to criticize them. So recently I've written a paper, but I was of course the author and I had another colleague from here. We criticized some of the systems here and everybody look at it, they say very good. Because of the criticism, we will now improve the practice. So to answer your question, there is, but it depends on where the tradition you are doing in. And you know from our recent election in New Zealand, we all believe in consensus and moderation. But unfortunately, this is not what is happening in many parts of the world. All right, I hope I have answered that question. Over to you, Dr.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Parno. So
Yeah.
the freedom in project-based learning. I want to refer back to what I answered to Bu Suwarsi. Number one, it's a value. The value of why we become teachers, why we teach to students, because we want to see them to be a good persons, to be well-being, with a great success in the futures, to be good leaders. And that's what the meaning of teaching. Okay, that's the value, why we decide to be the teachers. So we teach, we coach, we inspire, we facilitate, or sometimes we got to be the mentors, or sometimes we got to be the friends, bro, sis, or parents. So those 9 functions that we have to be able to perform to teach. Okay, that's the value that I want our teachers all to be realized, or to be got it into their mindset. So teaching, why we teach. Okay, project-based learning. We want to address students to deal with the projects and to satisfy the project owners. And that's how it works in the reality, and how it works in the professional ecosystem. Of course, if they sell their product in entrepreneurship, or if they become a worker in the company, they have to deal with the level of satisfactory. Of course, they have to perform. So what we can think is that, taking example, I'm a lecturer in the university. I teach product design, okay, and I got my connections in industry. I want my colleagues from industry to give them or to deliver them the project, real project. But I tell them, I want to deliver this project to my students, and I want my students to deal with these projects. And please, you as industry leaders, you should act also as teachers. What you should act? You should act like you order professional projects. So address them, put them real challenge. Because if I tell the students, okay, students, so here's the projects, you got to deal with this, you got to come up with the products, and I don't care you come up with a good, nice product or not so much, not so good product. I don't care the user satisfied or not, you still pass. It's not going to work. It's not like the sea we bring into the school. So the meaning of the freedom is those each of students, they're working in the groups and they perform based on their passions, but with the platform of professionals, of course. So, but we can tell the colleagues from the industry, please, if the product is still not satisfying you, but somehow they've been working very hard, so please tell them you are satisfied. So it's plan B and plan C. So it's like how we teach them. We teach, we inspire, we coach, we mentor, anyway. So I think that's my question, Pak Parno. Freedom doesn't mean no boundary, but it should be freedom in the learning process and ecosystem.
Okay, that's the
Thank
risk
you.
they have to face. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for Ibu Swarseh Madya and Bapak Suparno for giving the presenters 2 questions. I think there were 4 questions and has been responded very well and clear by our presenters, and that actually helped us to understand more about freedom to learn, freedom campus. And well, because it's nearly 11:30, I think this is now the end of the plenary sessions. And I would like, I do not have conclusion, I do not know how to conclude, because there are many things that we have learned from this plenary session from the 2 prominent speakers today. But at least I remember there are 2 things that has been presented, that freedom is not absolute, and we have the homework, the big homework, that is mindset changes. And for Indonesian, there will be regulation when we cannot do it ourselves. Is that right, Bapak Wikan?
Yeah.
So freedom is not absolute, and I believe that the government will help us to grow, to develop, and to follow this concept, the freedom to learn and freedom campus. Well, anyway, thank you very much again for the both presenters, and I would like to ask the participants here to show the appreciation to both presenters, and also for those who has asked questions. Before I ending this presentation, again, I would like to say thank you for all of the committee, again for the presenters, and the technicians here who's helping us with the things, with the technology thingy. Okay, thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ibu Endah Retnawati, for running the session very well. Of course, a great appreciation is addressed to both speakers for the inspiring presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, we are going to have 1 hour break before we come to the parallel session. But before that, I would like to inform you some information. Well, for the parallel session, you are not going to use this Zoom link, but you are going to use another link that is provided in the program book. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this plenary session, would you please leave meeting, and then at 12, would you please go to the link of the Zoom, the new one, provided in the program book. So it's about 30 minutes before the parallel session starts, because we need time to assign you to the breakout rooms. The parallel session starts exactly at 12:30, and it will end at 2:30, not at 2. There is a revision there. And then at the end of the day, we are going to have the coaching clinic session at 2:30 up to about 3:30. Bapak Ibu, perlu kami informasikan bahwa setelah sesi ini diakhiri, kami persilahkan Bapak Ibu untuk leave meeting dari link Zoom yang sekarang, dan nanti pada pukul tepat 12 Bapak Ibu diharapkan untuk masuk kembali ke Zoom dengan menggunakan link yang berbeda yang sudah disediakan di program book yang sudah dikirimkan kepada Bapak Ibu semua. Dan sesi paralel akan dimulai tepat pada pukul 12.30 dengan terlebih dahulu kami membreakout Bapak Ibu, kami membagi Bapak Ibu ke dalam breakout rooms, dan nanti sesi paralel akan berakhir pada pukul 14.30 sebelum Bapak Ibu mengikuti sesi coaching klinik yang akan diselenggarakan nanti pada pukul 14.30. Hal-hal yang terkait dengan publikasi dapat ditanyakan pada saat coaching klinik. Demikian Bapak Ibu, kita akhiri sesi ini. Well, have a nice break and please make sure that you are already in the Zoom link at 12 and the session starts at 12:30. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.